You're tough. You can handle it.
I'm not gonna let him intimidate me.
I like that.
Well, I have way too much to do. I don't have.
I like that.
He thinks he can sue everybody. It's not gonna work. So good luck. We got him.
I signed up for that one is for Coral, and one in Alpha.
You're excited for it?
I'm gonna be done with it. I ain't gonna worry about it. Gone this week. Of course, we don't get to play. I mean, you can't play it. So.
You played sport?
No.
It's time.
I will call this meeting to order for Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Susan Payne,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sharon McDonald,
Here.
Commissioner Mark Tapley,
Here.
Commissioner Josh Roden,
Here.
Commissioner Stephen Burnett,
Here.
Commissioner Warren Robinson,
Here.
Commissioner Nick Paul,
Here.
City Manager Rick Holden,
Here.
City Attorney Ashley Smith.
Here.
The clerk is present. Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Rachel. Good evening, everybody. We are going to start with our invocation and our pledge. Our invocation is going to be led tonight by Pastor John. They have John. It's Joe Cantu. It's his dad. Pastor Joe Cantu. And the pledge will be led by Commissioner Reardon. If everybody will please stand.
Let us pray. Father, we come before you in the name of Jesus. Lord, it is in your name that we trust. Lord, there are many atheists who don't believe in you, many people who don't think you're for real. Some have even tried to write books to disprove your resurrection, because if they can do that, then Christianity is a farce. But Lord, they can't do it. Gilbert West in the 1700s tried, and he gave his life to Christ. Simon Greenleaf, Harvard law professor, in 1846 tried. He couldn't do it. He gave his life to Christ. Atheist Josh McDowell, investigative reporter, tried, and he couldn't. Many have tried, Lord Jesus, and they can't do it. You tell us in your word that if you seek, you will find. If you ask, it will be given to you. These men were not believers, but they did seek, and they found you. And so, Lord, I pray that these men and women here, these commissioners, these leaders of our city of Alamogordo, Lord, they believe in you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here praying and asking for your help. We are all asking for your guidance, for your wisdom, and your help. Lord, please bless them, strengthen them, help them, Lord, in all the decisions that they have to make. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please follow me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Joe. Okay, we are going to move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Robinson. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We're going to start tonight with presentations. We have a presentation by Year Out Energy and Energy Performance Contract and Energy Cost Savings. Do we have Colby Greer?
We actually have a kind of a change of plan. Instead of having Colby, we're going to have Tara Trafton and Jesse Miller, who are also both from Year Out.
Okay.
This is a project that we've been working on for about a year and a half now, and we're getting to some of the final stages, so we are excited to go ahead and have Year Out present to you. There's also a corresponding item on the consent agenda that kind of ties in with this presentation. So without more ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse and Tara.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Can everyone hear me?
Uh-huh.
Excellent. Well, first of all, just thank you both so much, or both, thank you all so much for having us here today. Again, as Evelyn said, we're here to present sort of the culmination of a lot of work we've been doing around the city over the past year and a half. So really what we've been looking at is energy savings and facility improvements across the city. So my name is Tara Trafton. I'm an account executive. We have Jesse Miller here, who's our project development engineer. That is, unless Evelyn poaches him, because he knows all the facilities so well at this point. So again, we're just really happy to be here and share with you this work that's come together. So first things first, a little bit of background on the project. Hope he's okay. So a little bit of background on the project. As Evelyn said, we've been working on this with your team for a little bit over a year. We've been working closely with her, David Nunnally, Paul Bennett, Teresa Gutierrez, Stephanie Hernandez, and more recently with new city manager Holden, who's really come on board quickly, learned about the project, got up to speed, and is supportive, and we're really grateful for that. So with that in mind, we went through your facilities, and the goal was to audit them and to define the best possible project we could for the city. So the objectives that were defined at the outset were to improve the comfort level of city buildings, to reduce the amount of time that Paul and the team spend responding to hot and cold calls around the city, to mitigate rising utility costs, and to improve amenities for staff and constituents. With that in mind, we audited 112 facilities around the city, which is quite a few, which make up about 375,000 square feet of building area, 167 utility meters evaluated, and then we performed cost-benefit analysis on basically 213 permutations of measures we could implement and where they could go to make sure that we defined the best possible and most cost-effective project for the city. Again, it was a huge undertaking, and it wouldn't have been possible without the cooperation and the support from the amazing staff that you all have here. So again, just want to really say how much we appreciate them. So why are we performing all of these audits? Why specifically us, and then what's the end goal here? So let me give you a little bit of an introduction to Year Out Energy, who we are, and Performance Contracting, which is the vehicle we're using to move this project forward. So who we are essentially is a mission-driven design-build contractor specializing in energy efficiency projects for buildings, mostly in New Mexico. We lead the state in the implementation of what are called EPC projects, which are the energy performance contracting projects. And I'll get into more detail on what those are specifically. And I'm going too fast. Really, our mission can be distilled down to 3 key points, which are that we want to deliver practical solutions for our communities, deliver meaningful projects, and have confident outcomes. Practical because we've put in the time to really understand your facilities and your needs and worked with your team to, co-develop that scope of work. Meaningful because we really care about the communities that we work in. We're all pretty much from New Mexico. We're the only New Mexico-based company that offers this type of work. And confident outcomes. We guarantee the results, and that allows us to really just implement these EPC projects, and we've had a lot of success with them in the past. So what are EPC projects? So the first step, if you look at that first bar, and this takes you through the process of EPC, the first step is really to understand how your buildings are consuming energy and what it's costing you, as water as well. So during the investment grade audit, which is the audit where we came out to all those buildings, looked at all that utility data, we identified deficiencies and opportunities for savings in your buildings. So we then quantify those, guarantee those, and leverage that into these facility improvements for the buildings with these guarantees, so you are able to finance those out. And it's a budget neutral approach that basically takes those savings, those utility savings, we take them away from PNM and New Mexico Gas Company, and we're diverting them to your debt service, and so basically putting that money back into your buildings. Once you're done paying off that debt, then you just have those ongoing savings and the reduced utility costs. So it's a really nice program. It's been around for a very long time. These are some of the folks we've worked with in the area. So you can see a lot of familiar, I think, cities and towns and medical centers and schools and universities, et cetera. So we have a lot of experience implementing this, and it's very common and commonly used across the state. So let's get into the details of your project. So what are we doing specifically here for you all? So again, the first step is to understand how you're using energy and water and what it's costing you, right? So if you look at the first column on this table, those are the units you typically see on your bills. Then we convert them into a common unit of kBTUs, which are 1,000 British thermal units. And then we can understand that you guys use approximately 35.6 kBTUs per year. That breaks out to about 2/3 electricity and 1/3 natural gas. So that's just a breakdown of how you're consuming energy. This gets into what it's costing you. So of the 1.2 million you roughly spend on utilities a year, 80% of that goes to electricity, with a significantly smaller portion to natural gas and water. So if you recall, the wedge for electricity was smaller on consumption, but it's basically scaled itself up on cost. So what that tells us is that the best opportunity for savings is going to be in reducing your electricity consumption, but additionally, we're going to look at all measures that have a good payback. So again, so the measures that we identified for this project are LED lighting first. So we're going to be going through the city, and anywhere that you don't have existing LED lighting, we'll be making that conversion. You can see an example of some of the lighting you have today at the police department, and then you can see from one of our recent projects that was completed, we have the newer LED lighting installed. One of the things that we're doing is we're going to be implementing some additional features with that lighting, because I think some people initially, when you install it, it feels too bright, it feels too harsh. So those additional high-end trim, dimming, and daylighting, that's going to allow you to reduce those levels, make it more comfortable, and it drives additional savings for the city. Next, HVAC controls. The HVAC equipment across the city is actually relatively young compared to some of the other projects we've done, so kudos to the city on that. However, some of the thermostats that you have in place are just aging, and they don't have many features. So again, in order to ease the burden on some of your staff and then to just make things more comfortable for building occupants, the goal would be to implement these thermostats that allow for scheduling, remote monitoring, things of that nature. Something that people don't think about much are the low voltage transformers for your building. So here you can see again an example from Fire Station 5 and one of the new transformers we installed in a recent project. And so what we're going to be doing is going through and replacing those with more energy efficient ones. If you've ever walked past a transformer and it's buzzing or it's putting off a lot of heat, that's a good indication that it's kind of older and approaching the end of its life and just not very efficient. So replacing these is going to help with efficiency, but also with your building resiliency and your infrastructure. So over at the Family Recreation Center, in order to improve occupant comfort there, and then again, it has this additional benefit of reducing your energy consumption, we're going to be implementing some air destratification fans. So you can see there the model of the space with the fan installed. And like I said, this should improve with occupant comfort, make it more comfortable for your constituents, and reduce your energy bills there. Here we have building weatherization. You can see the pictures from the senior center exercise room. So in this picture, you can see the big differences in the coloration of the image, and that's just showing you the temperature gradient there. And what that is indicative of is gaps in your building envelope, essentially. So going around the city, there's about 50 square feet of building envelope gaps to remediate. So if you imagine just a 5 by 10 hole in the side of a building and all that energy getting blown out, that's what we're going to be addressing with that measure. And then water conservation, the goal with this is that there are some anticipated rate increases coming around the corner. So in order to mitigate those and get ahead of them, we're going to be replacing some of your fixtures with lower flow fixtures. We currently have some test aerators installed in this building in the bathrooms at the far ends, if you guys want to check those out. But so far they've been installed for about a month. About a month, and people seem happy with them because sometimes there can be concerns that the low flow don't sufficiently wash your hands, et cetera. Through the implementation of this measure, we anticipate saving 45,000 gallons of water annually. Then, once your buildings are all as efficient as can be, can go in and put in appropriately sized renewable energy systems, again, throughout the city without conflicting with the community solar project that you have in place or other existing solar arrays. These 9 sites were identified to install almost 300 kilowatts of solar power at these sites. And then last, to, again, improve the amenities for the community to hopefully attract additional tournaments maybe and drive down the cost of running those tournaments, replacing sports lighting at 4 of Griggs Fields with LED technology. You can see there which fields were selected, and this allows for remote controlling and has air mesh technology, so should be a nice improvement for your constituents. So that sums up the scope of the project, all of the different things we're doing. So if we get into the financials, what you can see is that this is a $4.5 million turnkey project, and essentially the city is putting in $1.45 million to get you there, and over the useful life, there's approximately $6 million of benefit. You can see all those numbers in between are all of the different sort of financial stacks, capital stacks that we're putting together to get you there. So those include annual savings, Inflation Reduction Act. There's a grant that we found, rebates, which that's on the conservative side at this moment. And then you can see the interest rate and the term, which are projections. So with that, that is everything that I have for you. And again, I really appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I'm just trying to understand this.
It's a very nice presentation. What did this cost the city?
What did it cost the city to do the audit?
Yeah,
I think it
just
was,
ballpark.
I think it was $75,000. But that project gets also funded through the savings. So the city hasn't actually had to pay that yet, because again, always the goal is to identify enough savings to roll that project cost, the development cost of the investment grade audit, into the project, and it is also paid for by the savings.
So you're telling me it's a win-win?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, of course.
Okay.
A question for probably Rick, but the upfront capital contribution we got to make, if we were to approve this tonight, where would we pull that money from?
I'll defer to Evelyn to give you the exact location for that, but while she's on her way up there, I'll let you know that this is not a new concept. It may be for this area, but most states are doing this. I did it in Texas, and it is purely based on those guaranteed savings to pay those capital costs. So it really is, as Commissioner Warren said, it's a win-win type of a situation for everybody. But Evelyn, where do you?
So our initial plan was partially from the general fund for the subsidized buildings for the general buildings like City Hall. And then water would also have a portion of it because a lot of their sites are also having upgrades. So it would be allocated in between those two,
So at
11 and 81.
81 and 11,
Yeah.
okay. And then that would be the total cost we got to come up with first is the 1.45.
Is the 1.45, and then we would finance the additional pieces that were needed, and then obviously minus the rebates that we would get back. And then the savings are what we use to pay the debt service. The kind of attractive part about this, that's something that Rick also brought up to us, this is all regulated by the state. So once Year Out provides their final report, it's not just goes to us, it actually goes to the state, who verifies all of their measurements, verifies all of their financial measurements, everything like that. If it doesn't pass muster with the state, then it can't move forward. So, and then also the state requires them to certify going forward that they're meeting their targets. And if those targets, the savings for some reason are not met, then Year Out is required to write us back the difference of those targets that aren't met.
So this, oh, go ahead. I'm
How
sorry.
long would the project take to complete, I guess?
The implementation phase?
Yes, ma'am.
I think Jesse dealt with that most recently in our.
So, talking to construction, we're looking at the different lead times for materials and just what it takes to install, and I think the longest portion of it was solar. So I think we were looking to potentially start implementing, I want to say August or September of this year to actually get that going, and then kind of stacking in everything to hopefully finish by spring or early summer of next year, I think was the goal.
There will be a preliminary schedule in the final report. I just don't have it memorized.
So it's about a year-long project?
Yeah.
Okay. And just because I'm, the Griggs Field, maybe somebody knows, Fields 1, 2, 3, and 7, the rest of them had LED lighting, didn't they? Or do they? Or, why do I think we did
They-
something with LED lighting?
We
We
upgraded
have
something
some
over
that
there.
are done.
Uh-huh.
We really wanted to do all of them, but it was a huge outlay on the front end, and
Okay.
it was just putting the numbers into something we didn't think was
So this
reasonable.
is just what we didn't do?
This is what we didn't do. Also, at this point, I don't believe Hoosier has any as well. So,
Okay.
these fields will not get us fully LED sports lights,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll get us closer.
Closer, okay.
I think we upgraded Griggs, and then the lights we took from Griggs, we moved to Hoosier, didn't we?
Yeah, but they're not LEDs.
Okay. But, yeah, I
Okay.
remember vaguely we did something. so.
Okay. So this is, man, I'm trying to understand this. It's a lot to wrap your brain
It's
around.
huge. It's been a huge project, and the report that they keep referring to is this gigantic report that it's actually been very useful for us because it's probably the first time that I'm aware of where we've had somebody literally walk like every inch of our buildings and go through every kind of little nuance. So
But this annual savings is what pays this back?
that's what pays the debt service to
Okay.
do. So all of the measures that they're talking about, we've done little pieces here and there. Like they were talking about, we have some LED lights. We don't have all LED lights.
get it.
We have newer HVAC, but we didn't upgrade any of the thermostats when we put the newer HVAC
Welcome down
in.
Lamagordo, yeah, I get
And-
it.
And so this is the same thing with the transformers. The transformers were something that I was not aware of at all. We put a transformer in when we build a building,
They only use
but we don't necessarily, we've never replaced them. So this is getting us, it's getting us all of these things that we're doing in little pieces now as
A
a
package,
project.
like a whole package.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I understand it now. That was,
It's a
wow,
lot.
okay,
That's a lot of information.
yeah. And I just don't want to sit here and pretend like I totally understand you when I'm going, what in the world are they talking about? But
And
I
of
understand
course-
it now.
And of course, once we have the final report, that's something we'll make available to you all as well.
Yes, okay. And you said the state will monitor the cost savings to make sure we're on track every year. is that right?
Yeah, so the state, I mean, honestly, it's a really wonderful program, and it's a really great service that they provide here in New Mexico that not every state has the benefit of. So they have assigned a third-party reviewer already to the project who's been
Oh,
the
okay.
past week walking the sites with Jesse to familiarize themselves with all the scopes of work, to then, when they get the report, they also read the report, they critique it, they say, you know, they always find a couple like, oh, you missed this number is off by one, or what, you know. So they go through, and they're an engineering consultant, so they have the background needed to really understand, what are we saying we're going to save? Is it reasonable? Does it meet current standards? And then the state, again, reviews that, and then every year we have to come back and prove that we're meeting those savings targets. And as Evelyn said, if we fail to meet that target because you've gone and secured financing against our guarantee, if we fall short, we have to write a check for the difference so that you're whole across the board.
Right, so we're not out anything. And not that it really matters what other cities are doing, but just because I'm curious, is this like revolutionary in New Mexico or other cities? Because you said you're the only company in New Mexico doing this,
We're the
right?
only New Mexico-based.
Or the only New Mexico-based
Yeah,
company.
And we probably have about 85% of the market share.
Uh-huh.
But we've worked with City of Santa Fe County, Gallup-McKinley County Schools, Rio Arriba County.
Yeah, I was trying to read some of
Dora
that.
Schools, I mean, big and small, all across the state, every corner you can imagine. So Western New Mexico University, you know, everyone. So
Okay, yeah, I was trying to read some of the, oh, I see, City of Santa, I don't know why I
City of
didn't see it.
Albuquerque, yeah, also.
Okay, well, that's
Socorro
good.
County, Socorro Schools. The list goes on. Yeah.
okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
I've got a question. Can you speak to the financing piece of it? The projection is 4.5% interest rate. How do we plan to finance
That is just a projection.
Right.
So when we do have the final report, we've spoken with John Archuleta, who's our financial advisor from Bosque Advisors. So we would be going first to New Mexico Finance Authority and say, okay, you know, what do you have available? What can you do for us? And so that 4.5% interest rate, that's not like that's locked in or anything. That's here for the proposal to kind of show you would be going forward. Obviously, whatever we were able to secure, you know, through NMFA or somewhere else would come to you guys for approval.
Right, because I mean, that can make a huge difference on any potential savings.
Absolutely, and that's something too, you know, none of it is set in stone to the point where if we go out and we can, you know, we can't get 4.5, we can get 6.5 or something, you know, then we can go back to year out and say, okay, you know, this is what we can get. Where does that put us in our project? And we can, you know, make those decisions. Because something that you didn't really say is like, they came to us with like 5 or 6 different scenarios at different times. And some of them, I mean, there's the Cadillac one where it was like, we're going to replace every ball field light and every light in the world. And it was like, okay, but we don't have $6 million up front. You know? And so this is kind of the one we got to, but it's not set in stone to where if, you know, situations arise that we have to adjust it, we can.
Okay, thank you.
So on here, it says a 20-year term, so that's how long our.
That would be how long our.
And it says 23 years is the life,
Yeah, so 20.
useful life, so at roughly 23 years, we'd have to do it all over again.
We'd have to do it all over again, with the caveat that if we maintain it, we have a better chance of extending its life.
Right.
You know, obviously, the big part, like, I'm very excited about the solar. That's something that we've talked about before, is trying to, you know, leverage some of these buildings where we have big open spaces. So that's going to be huge for us. And then, obviously, too, with the LED lighting, like, that's very revolutionary for us as well, because right now we just kind of have a mix mash of a bunch of different things, so.
We could have something completely new in 23 years, right?
Huh?
I said we could have something completely new to replace LED lighting
Well,
in 23
at that
years.
point, AI will have taken over and we won't have to worry
I,
about
you
it.
know, yeah, there you
Cabin
go.
in 23
See?
years.
AI, the way of the future. There you go. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Very welcome, thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. We are going to move on to public comment. I have 4 people signed up to talk about the pool, and that is actually item 7. So if you don't mind, I'm going to have you wait until we actually get to the portion of the pool, and then I'll have you speak. Is that okay? All right, very good. And with that, I have one person signed up for public comment. John Davis. Sir, how are you tonight?
Not bad, how are you?
It's cold and it's windy, but other than that, it's great.
You bet. Well, on the plus side of things, I walked in the wind, and the wind was exhilarating. I
Oh.
kind of enjoyed it. Kudos to Year Out. If you believe, as I do, that the cost per kilowatt hour is only going to go up, they will save you even more money in the long run on that. I'm back again. I gave all of you guys an invitation to join me for coffee and donuts, and once again, I got ignored. Just so you guys know, I've been ignored by the best of them. I've been married 3 times, okay? And Mark Chapley did join me for coffee at Mad Coffee, and we talked and had a good discussion. And Mark, that invitation's still open anytime if you want to meet for coffee. And Mad Coffee serves some really good coffee. Now to the point why I'm here. I've got 2 minutes, 22 seconds. I'm not going to take that long. I'll be here tonight. I walked again to show you my resolve, and I think I'm not being taken seriously. It's a mistake, but it's a common one. It happens. I would ask that when I leave later tonight, you look on the agenda. Your mission statement is there. That mission statement says an awful lot of kind of what I'd like to say, except I'm running out of time. I got less than 2 minutes now. I'll be back on March 12th. And because I believe in giving people every opportunity to do the right thing. But after that, with the change of seasons, because Tempest Vernum, it's almost springtime, and that brings change. And after the 12th, I guess maybe I will hate it, but we will meet in another venue. That having been said, I'm leaving, and I got more than a minute on the clock. So you folks have a good night. I hope I haven't had to make any of you reach for a Tylenol bottle. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Old school, I gotta have my paper. We are going to move on to the city manager's report.
Mayor, members of the commission, I have just a couple of new items to talk about. You talked about Griggs Field, and I do want to let you know that I'm in the process, now I'm in negotiations with the Sacramento Mountains Foundation, and they've agreed to put new scoreboards out at Griggs Field for us, purchase the scoreboards and pay for the installation of those scoreboards. So Joe Wheeler and I have been working back and forth on the contracts. And as soon as we get those completed, we'll get those signed, and they will buy the scoreboards. Then we will go through procurement on our end to have those put up, and the foundation will pay for that. So that's a great opportunity to upgrade that series of fields. On another item that has occurred as of today, our liquor liability insurance policy has ceased to exist. We were not able to renew that liability policy. Our New Mexico League will not carry us for the liquor liability, so we, at this point, will not be having liquor opportunities at the Civic Center or anywhere else at this point. And we will continue to keep trying to find a private carrier that would insure us for that purpose. And we will also be looking at the possibility of allowing some of our third-party companies here in town to be able to serve alcohol at some of those events at the Civic Center that might want alcohol. There are provisions in the state law that would allow that, so we'll work through those opportunities. And we're also going to be looking at the possibility of some single event type coverage that we can get. So I needed to let you know, as I found out about it, they've been working on this since October, apparently, trying to secure insurance, and with the liability issues facing the state, It's apparently very difficult to get this insurance now, and you can't hardly find anybody that will do it. And when our own state of New Mexico's league, through our self-insurer, says they won't touch it, that tells you that there's a pretty big issue going on in New Mexico when you start looking at these licenses. So liability, as you well know, has been a big issue for us in numerous ways, but this is something that at least need to make you aware of, because like many other things, this will probably become a Facebook issue. So you're aware of it, and we will keep you advised as we find other alternatives, if there are any, and if not, we will advise you there also. But we're looking through our procurement stuff at every potential opportunity, but we're not getting very many leads. Barb has pretty well exhausted the resources on that. So that's just an update.
Does that include the golf course?
No, Grant has a separate license out there, and so as long as he's there, that will remain. And so he's good to go.
Have there been other communities that have been going through this? that you guys-
We're not aware of any. At this point, we had a brief discussion this morning with our group, and we were talking about other cities, and I find it difficult to believe that we would be the only ones in this bind. But again, when our own municipal league carrier tells us that we're barking up a difficult tree to continue with that level of liability, then it indicates that this is a major problem throughout New Mexico. So we will continue to keep looking. I think the next event scheduled here was March 16th. March 16th, and so we've made our Civic Center aware. So we'll be looking at options if we need to provide for those that might have an event planned or scheduled. They're going to have to come up with some other alternatives if we're not able to come up with that. But again, it's something that there's just no choice in. We had it extended, and we'd asked for an additional extension, and the insurance company says no. So it's kind of like the parade issue that we had with the chamber for Christmas. You get some claims, and even though we don't have a pressing claim right now, the issue is prevalent enough throughout the state that you're finding a hard time finding underwriters that are willing to do that. And if we find one, it's probably going to be so expensive that it's going to really be a debate as to whether or not you want to continue with it. So we will keep you advised just as quickly as we find out any additional information. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to remarks and inquiries by the city commission. I'd like to just start real quick because I don't want to forget. I think this is really important. And for those of you who knew Rhonda Merrick, our condolences to Rich. I did talk to him. You know, everybody texts these days. We don't actually talk to each other. But I did talk to him the other day. I think actually I'm going to see him tomorrow. But Rhonda Merrick was definitely a staple in our community. Her and I certainly had our issues, but in the end, you know, she's a great person that did a lot for our community and really cared about her causes. And she just passed away from cancer, and cancer sucks. We all know that. So my condolences to the Merrick family on the loss of Rhonda. It's a big loss for our city. She did a lot. So with that, you know, usual stuff for me, busy, really busy. I did attend an event the other night on base. I will tell you that it was really good. I had a really good time and informative. So that was really good. And they have a lot of great things to say about our city out there. And so it's always nice to visit with our military and get their perspective. So that was a well worth it. And yeah, I think that's it for me, so. Does anybody else have anything?
I do. Can we look at removing the fence for Miss Gonzalez at Incredible? Is it Incredible?
Incredible court.
Incredible Court. She's having difficulties getting the trailer torn down.
Oh, where the fire was at?
Yes.
We'll have to look at that. I don't believe that we don't have the ability to do that without, we can't do it as a city. We can't send a city crew out to do it.
No, we put up a fence around her trailer, but she already has a fence around her property.
Josh, do you want to address that? Is that the tape? Is it? Okay.
We kind of went into this last meeting, until it is not a hazard that if somebody gets in it and it finishes collapsing, I cannot remove that because liability is on the city now. Because we know about it, we've condemned it. If somebody gets in there because I've removed the temporary fencing and that building collapses, not only does litigation could possibly happen to that family, but to the city as well. So I will not remove that until there is no potential risk of anybody getting seriously hurt or killed. She's put her lock on there along with our lock. She has free reign to go in and out, but until it becomes safe, I won't remove it.
So how does she get equipment in there?
So what she can do is she has the lock. She can move the fencing out of her way because where we put it was right in her driveway.
Right.
So all she has to do is just open up her fencing and open up our fencing.
She wants to be able to park the dumpster next to the house, but she can't do that.
I don't know why she couldn't do that.
We can work with her to facilitate getting her into the property to get a dumpster in there. That's,
I mean, she's waiting on this dumpster to get taken away because it's full, but, so.
We
It's just-
can,
She's just having difficulties. I mean, we sit up here and say that we need the community citizens to start taking responsibility of their own properties, and here we have one. And we just created another hurdle for them.
I would invite her to call me and speak with me because she hasn't. She hasn't called me and talked to me about any of these issues.
I see her every morning because I stop in and get a burrito.
Right.
But
So, but I would. We've talked before. We're cordial, work together. That's why I allowed her to put the lock on our fence so she could go in and out. So, if she's wanting to move that dumpster from where she told me she was putting it to a new location, I'd be more than happy to work with her. But I don't know the location she told me she was putting it at now. I don't see there being an issue with it because where anywhere else she'd move it is there's a fence